Homesteading, page 14. Improving your soil. Several years, depending on fertilization and other soil factors. So occasional testing is strongly encouraged. Home tests for pH, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are available from most garden centers. While these may give you a general idea of the nutrients in your soil, they are not as reliable as tests performed by the Cooperative Extension Service at land-grant universities. University and other commercial testing services will provide more detail, and you can request special tests for micronutrients if you suspect a problem. In addition to the analysis of nutrients in your soil, these services often provide recommendations for the application of nutrients or how best to adjust the pH of your soil. The test for soil pH is very simple. pH is a measure of how acidic or alkaline your soil is. A pH of 7 is considered neutral. Below 7 is acidic, and above 7 is alkaline. Because pH greatly influences plant nutrients, adjusting the pH will often correct a nutrient problem. At a high pH, several of the micronutrients become less available for plant uptake. Iron deficiency is a common problem, even at a neutral pH, for such plants as rhododendrons and blueberries. At a very low soil pH, other micronutrients may be too available to the plant, resulting in toxicity. Phosphorus and potassium are tested regularly by commercial testing labs. While there are soil tests for nitrogen, these may be less reliable. Nitrogen is present in the soil in several forms that can change rapidly. Therefore, a precise analysis of nitrogen is more difficult to obtain. Most university soil test labs do not routinely test for nitrogen. Home testing kits often contain a test for nitrogen that may give you a general, though not necessarily completely accurate, idea of the presence of nitrogen in your garden soil. Organic matter is often part of a soil test. Organic matter has a large influence on soil structure, and so is highly desirable for your garden soil. Good soil structure improves aeration, water movement, and retention. This encourages increased microbial activity and root growth, both of which influence the availability of nutrients for plant growth. Soils high in organic matter tend to have a greater supply of plant nutrients compared to many soils low in organic matter. Organic matter tends to bind up some soil pesticides, reducing their effectiveness. And so this should be taken into consideration if you are planning to apply pesticides to your garden. Tests for micronutrients are usually not performed unless there is reason to suspect a problem. Certain plants have greater requirements for specific micronutrients and may show deficiency symptoms if those nutrients are not readily available. See chart pages 16 and 67. To determine the various layers of soil, called your soil profile, a core sample can be taken. This requires a boring machine which will insert a hollow core rod or probe like these shown here deep into the ground to extract soil. The layers will be distinguishable by the change in soil color. Several core samples can be mixed together for a more accurate soil test. Steps for taking a soil test. 1. If you intend to send your sample to the land grant university in your state, contact the local cooperative extension service for more information and sample bags. If you intend to send your sample to a private testing lab, contact them for specific details about submitting a sample. 2. Follow the directions carefully for submitting the sample. The following are general guidelines for taking a soil sample. Sample when the soil is moist but not wet. Obtain a clean pail or similar container. Clear away the surface litter or grass. With a spade or soil auger, dig a small amount of the soil to a depth of 6 inches. Place the soil in the clean pail. Repeat until the required number of samples has been collected. Mix the samples together thoroughly. From the mixture, take the sample that will be sent for analysis. Send immediately. Do not dry before sending. 3. If you are using a home soil testing kit, follow the above steps for taking your sample. Follow the directions in the test kit carefully so you receive the most accurate reading possible. Page 15. Enriching your soil. Organic and commercial fertilizers and returning nutrients to your soil. Once you have the results of the soil test, you can add nutrients or soil amendments as needed to alter the pH. If you need to raise the soil's pH, use lime. Lime is most effective when it is mixed into the soil. Therefore, it is best to apply before planting. If you apply lime in the fall, it has a better chance of correcting any soil acidity problems for the next growing season. For large areas, rototilling is most effective. For small areas or around plants, working the lime into the soil with a spade or cultivator is preferable. When working around plants, be careful not to dig too deeply or roughly so that you damage plant roots. Depending on the form of lime and the soil conditions, the change in pH may be gradual. It may take several months before a significant change is noted. Soils high in organic matter and clay tend to take larger amounts of lime to change the pH than do sandy soils. If you need to lower the pH significantly, especially for plants such as rhododendrons, you can use aluminum sulfate. In all cases, follow the soil tests or manufacturer's recommended rates of application. Again, mixing well into the soil is recommended. There are numerous choices for providing nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the nutrients your plants need to thrive. Nitrogen is needed for healthy green growth and regulation of other nutrients. Phosphorus, P, helps roots and seeds properly develop and resist disease. Potassium, K, is also important in root development and disease resistance. If your soil is of adequate fertility, applying compost may be the best method of introducing additional nutrients. While compost is relatively low in nutrients compared to commercial fertilizers, it is especially beneficial in improving the condition of the soil and is non-toxic. By keeping the soil loose, compost allows plant roots to grow well throughout the soil, helping them to extract nutrients from a larger area. A loose soil enriched with compost is also an excellent habitat for earthworms and other beneficial soil microorganisms that are essential for releasing nutrients for plant use. The nutrients from compost are also released slowly, so there is no concern about burning the plant with an over-application of synthetic fertilizer. Manure is also an excellent source of plant nutrients and is an organic matter. Manure should be composted before applying, as fresh manure may be too strong and can injure plants. Be careful when composting manure. If left in the open, exposed to rain, nutrients may leach out of the manure and the runoff can contaminate nearby waters. Store the manure away from wells and any waterways and make sure that any runoff is confined and slowly released into vegetated area. Improperly applied manure, and then it shows after rototillering or mixing in the fertilizer with a spade, you may wish to rake out the soil to make sure it is smooth and well aerated.